If you are even just a beginner player, you should know the word ATARI, meaning a stone or a group of stones is one liberty away from being captured. The famous video game company with the same name actually had the idea of the name from Go. Its original name was CCG Co., founded in 1971, and upon discovering that the name was already in use in California, the duo had the idea to change it to ATARI in 1972, thanks to Nolan Bushnell, one of the co-founders, who was a fan of the game. Other name candidates for the company reportedly were Sente and Hane, showing the great interest from the men for the game. If you are blind, you can still play Go with special Go bands like these. Stones are inserted in holes, and to differentiate them, black stones have little bumps at the top. Blind people can easily construct a mental image of the game by moving their hands on the Go band as they would in order to read Braille. Still, some players are mad enough to play what we could name real blind Go, having the full game only in their minds, telling the coordinates to their opponents like Bao Yun, 7 non-professional Dan, does in this game against Rian Lee, 1 Dan Pro. This is really out of this world. The simplest of them all, a normal Agathis Go band, can be around $40. A board, made out of katsura, a sort of Japanese marble, can come at around $2,000. But a true Kaya Go band is at least $2,000, but can easily cost you 10 times this price. And for luxury Go bands, you can pay up to $40,000, but exclusive pieces like historic ones or Go bands signed by famous players can range from $200,000 to $300,000. Antti Tormanen is a professional one-dan Go player from Finland, now playing in Japan for the Nihon Ki-in, and currently the only European player to be a professional in Japan. This chance of having a new player from the West since 1997 came from the manga Hikaru no Go. The player from Finland told in an interview that he got hooked after discovering the ancient game at 12 years old with the Japanese manga. And I'm pretty sure a lot of you began playing thanks to Hikaru no Go as well. While many would argue that Dosaku is the best player of all time, many people think that the strongest Go player that has ever lived is actually Huang Longshe, a player in ancient China during the Qing dynasty circa 1651 to 1654. And Go Seigen actually considered Huang Longshe to be around 13 dan. He also went on to say that Huang was at least the level of Honin Bodosaku. But even with all this praise, Huang is barely known anywhere outside of China. Much of this had to come from the fact that during the 17th century, Chinese Go players were seen as inferior players from the Japanese Go. In the famous book Hatsuyurun, Inoue Inseki wrongly said that Chinese players would have to take handicap stones from the top Japanese players, although there is no mention of Huang. This led many to believe that all Chinese Go players were no match to the Japanese Go players. We can see his genius at work with the famous games of blood and tears against Chu Qingyu, where he demonstrated his incredible strategies, building territories while attacking on a global scale. Longshe used his mind most meticulously. He sought to enter the deepest apertures. When it became a critical matter of life and death, and while the crowd were already helpless and at their wits' end, he was expertly exerting a subtle influence. And seeing more and more skillful ideas and magical effects, the air would suddenly change, and from death, he would re-enter life. Surprisingly, the game of chess is far less interesting than Go. There are more possible Go positions than there are atoms in the universe, which is around 10 to the power of 80. Now for the math fans out there, assuming each location on the board can be either empty, black or white, there is 3 to the power n to the power of 2, where n is the size of the board, so 3 to the power of 19 to the power of 2 possible different board positions, which is roughly equal to 1.74 times 10 to the power of 172. That's a lot. As far as the total number of possible games, it can be estimated thanks to Tromp and Farnabach's paper in Combinatorics of Go. The computer scientist Victor Alice notes that typical games between experts last about 150 moves, which gives us 4.2 times 10 to the power of 383 possible games for that number of moves. Sources are in description if you want to dig deeper, but I am far from having the knowledge necessary in order to understand anything more complex than this. Those are incredible numbers, showing the sheer complexity and level of abstraction of the game.